We talked about periods. We talked about birth control. Now let's combine the two and talk about having sex on your period.
Woo! It's a very controversial subject, I feel like, person to person. I've
Definitely
talked to many couples or friends that are like, oh yeah, it's the best thing. And then I've talked to people that are like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
No fucking way.
I also feel like it depends on the time of the period. If it's like full flush, like I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It's
I'm not doing it. And that's great. I have very similar thinking to you. You know, shocker. I feel like this is just going to be us agreeing about it.
Like, you're so right, Madison. You're right.
Truly. But yeah, I think I've been the same way, and my past partner has been lovely on it. You know, I think I was so scared and shameful. Yeah, I was like, ooh, is he even gonna want to have sex with me while I'm on my period? Again, I've heard about men that are like, I fucking love it, and you're like, all right, like good for you.
My recent ex, when we were first started dating, I like texted him one time and I was like, "Oh, I'm on my period. Like, we can't do anything." He said to me, "The only thing that should stop a period is a sentence." I was like,
and that's aggressive too. We love it. But like, I think, yeah, it's obviously a conversation that the couple should have regardless, you know, what everyone feels comfortable with. Towels are always encouraged. I'm also like,
"Check your sheets."
yes, I'm like an OCD control freak that I'm like, the sheets.
I know.
It's just so ridiculous. Yeah. You can buy some new sheets. Don't be like me. But
like me.
I know also women, sometimes it's easier in the shower with period sex as well because less cleanup. Yeah. Again, shower sex is a whole nother subject that we could get into as well. But yeah, as far as I go, personal preference wise, yeah, I've enjoyed it before, but it's not something that like I crave. I know a lot of people, it helps their period, especially if they have really bad cramps. Again,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually, some women say like it's super beneficial. I love the appearance of the lovely cat. But yeah, so yeah, it's one of those things that I think is based on a case to case basis. I've been really down for it before, and it's worked really well. But then it also kind of does make me insecure. So you know, if I'm too much in my head anyway, maybe.
I agree with you. I think that I already have that problem of being in my head too much sometimes, even during sex, that if the period's there, like I just don't feel good. Like I don't feel sexual. I don't feel like, and I am also a sheets person. Yes. And so I don't want to buy new sheets. I don't want to like think about.
I know. I invest in my things in my house. My towels are even nice, which is so ridiculous. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. And I love the point you made of like not feeling sexy necessarily too. Not that I encourage that by any means. I think everyone should feel sexy at all times, like live your best life. But realistically speaking, I know I don't initially feel sexy when I'm on my period.
I do agree with you. Like, I don't want to do it, but if I'm with a guy that's like, I don't fucking care, I'm down, I'd be like, I might not do it still, but that's sexy.
I think there is something really, really fantastic about men, especially newer age men. I think, not that like, I'm sure plenty of people in the past, but I think it's way more acceptable. Like I was listening to a podcast the other day where this couple who runs the podcast or hosts the podcast was saying how their first time that they hooked up, he went to go down on her and she had a tampon in and she forgot she had a tampon in and he didn't say anything because he was like, fucking respect. Like he didn't even say anything. He wasn't even mad about it. And then she was mortified after she remembered that she was on her period. And I was just like, what a wild time. What a wild time.
Best story I've ever heard.
Yeah. And he said, when I got down there, I was like, respect. She didn't even tell me. Like he was like really excited about it because he was like, she feels comfortable in her body and she has no shame about it. And it's kind of how it should be. Again, I would probably communicate to someone, but she obviously it slipped her brain. Not that she needs to, but it was just in that moment it slipped her brain. And I've had friends also. I don't know if this is going to get really TMI, but I've had friends that maybe this won't make it into the edit, but that she was like, my husband has no problem doing any and all activities while I'm on my period. And I'm like,
Wow.
fantastic. And she's like, she was insecure before, and then she met her fantastic husband that she loves. Not because of this, he's fantastic in general, but this definitely adds some brownie points. And she had that conversation with him where she was like, I don't know how you feel about period sex, all the whole thing. And he was like, it's not stopping anything. Like, we are doing whatever feels good for you. And she was like, okay, great. And like they figure out what works for them, and it doesn't ever interrupt their sex life. I don't know if I'd ever get to that point of comfortability.
Yeah,
But
like I don't know if I would either, but I almost like marvel and like respect them and wonder if that's like even a good connector as in a relationship. So you literally have nothing you're ashamed of at any point in your cycle and your life, like, and to feel so comfortable. Like I think that I wonder if that even like leads to like as we get older and things start changing more and more and more,
yeah, menopause and everything.
like
Yeah.
understanding of things aren't always pretty or perfect or prim, like make you feel more comfortable and like
Intimate.
accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like I will say kudos to my ex for sure, 1000%, because he was definitely someone that I was like, not him specifically, but just having sex and then having period sex and being like, hey, how do I bring this up? I mean, it obviously happens. Like he knows I got my period.
Yeah.
And it's like, when is this going to come up and when is it going to be awkward? And he met it with valiant, acceptance and no shame, and was like, yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with, I'm totally down. And I was like, great. And again, like that option made me feel so much more comfortable. But it didn't necessarily make me like, "Hey." I was like, oh, good to have the option. I think that's really, really
Well,
lovely.
it's also to feel like, oh, I'm not like this isn't nasty to you. Like it
Yeah.
isn't like it's a part of our body, you know?
Yeah, or even a burden, right? Because I
Yeah.
know some women that like their boyfriends do get upset, like, in which I'm like, leave them. but but like,
They're on their period.
yeah, like it's almost like, oh well, it's not gonna be as fun, like whatever. Maybe it's not as sexy for them, or they have issues of like even doing it.
Yeah.
I've met plenty of women, I'm friends with plenty of women that have been with men like that in the past. I've never been with a man like that, but yeah, I've heard some horror stories of guys just being like, oh, actually, never mind, thank you though. Like, and it's like, ooh,
No, I've definitely met a lot of men like that, and
yeah,
them too. Like
yeah,
definitely.
and
Like
see,
you know, I actually at the time I will say I didn't think of it like that. I was
mhm,
like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like they don't want to. Like they feel like it's not their blood. It's fine.
yeah, which I totally, yeah, again, I respect, like
Yeah.
to a certain extent, but there has to be a level of still acceptance, and like, I think it's a weird conversation in general with sex, and I think there's so many, like, some people there's like hard no's,
Yeah.
and then there's some that are like people that will try anything, and I try to lean more on that side of like being open-minded.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously we have to respect boundaries in general, and I think, if that was something that really made your partner uncomfortable, don't
Totally.
shame them for it.
Yeah.
But I don't want that partner's uncomfortability to rub
Make
off
you
on
feel
me.
shameful. That's an interesting point too. Like that balance of like somebody else's line and what how it affects you and your comfort and your shame of what you can't control. Like how do you kind of balance the toe between two people having maybe extreme feelings on either side?
Mhm.
Like what matters more? Like what a partner feels comfortable doing or how it affects their partner's feelings within their own personal body.
Yeah, I love that conversation because it's true. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just
Yeah.
boundaries, and it's respect, and it's um, listening skills. I think, again, I haven't met in my experience people that draw hard lines, but I feel like I would be the hard line drawer in many, many respects. But then I also have talked to many, before it's even gotten sexual with some guys, and I've talked to them about kinks and whatever, you're getting to know each other, flirting, what have you. And I always try to approach it with grace, because even though I might not be down for what they're putting down, I don't want anyone to feel shameful for their taste, and it is a hard line, because sometimes like say a foot fetish, right, might be like so weird to you, right? You might be like, what? But most people, it's like one of the most
Common ones,
common
right?
fetishes, and I think, and fetish is even a word that I'm like, maybe we stop using that as well. But like something that is really intrigues people or makes them ignited, sexually and intimately, and I think that's a really hard line, like you were saying, to not make them feel bad, but also to be comfortable enough to be like, that's not my cup of tea.
Well, I think it's why when you are flirting and dating and starting that, it's okay to have these kind of conversations. It shouldn't be taboo. Like you should know somebody that you're getting into a relationship with, what they want, what they're okay with, what they're interested in. And that doesn't mean like you're just talking dirty and like it's like it really should be a part of getting to know somebody, because if they toe a hard line where you're like, yeah, that's not something I want to do, and that's something that's really important to them,
Yeah.
then that's something to consider not being with them.
Totally. I think that's a really great point. And sometimes taste is that hard line, like not that they wouldn't enjoy having sex with you. Say it's vanilla, right? Say they are super into BDSM or something like that, and you're very vanilla. And they're like, that's really enjoyable for me. And not that sex with you would be not enjoyable, but it definitely creates that extra struggle or extra friction necessary, not necessarily anger towards each other or resentment, but definitely if it's not jiving, you don't need to force it.
I have an interesting story. I have a friend that she started dating this guy, and he was very forefront and said, in my relationships, I am not like monogamous. I don't go out and sleep with other people, but I want the ability to bring somebody into our bed.
Yeah.
And she was not this way at all. She was like, oh, I don't know, but she really liked him. Da da da. She made the decision to move forward, then ended up really falling in love with this lifestyle and the ability to like flirt with other men, flirt with other women, have sex with other women, and really enjoyed it and felt like it brought them closer.
That's awesome.
Now they've been together for a few years now, and now he's come to her and said, like, I know I said that this is what I needed for our relationship, but now you're enough for me, and I don't really feel the need to have this. And so it was so interesting that she kind of like fell in love with that. She's fine not doing it as well, but she fell in love and like accepted it and tried something that was completely out of her realm, ended up really enjoying it, and now they've both gotten to a place where they only kind of want each other.
I love that. What a cool story, and like what a great success story as far as like her hearing him out, right? Hearing out his wants, needs, desires, not judging him for it, even though she was not on that same page, right? Being open-minded. And of course, it would have been totally fine if she never tried it. If she still was like, still not my comfort zone, or tried it once and didn't like it, stopped it midway through, was like, hey, tap out, this is not me. But the fact that they were able to find that common ground, find that common interest, and then grow together, and then later on say, my boundaries have changed. I think that's so cool. That's awesome. I want that for everyone. I want that in my life in many respects. I think because people are adjusting and changing. And one thing I want from partners in general is just, a challenge, right? I think that's something that I really love finding in a partner. And even though sometimes I go against it a lot of the time, I like being who I am. I think I grow more obviously from someone giving me an opposing view or opposing way of thinking than I have before, or a different way of thinking. And I think that's a really great, healthy example of that. Being introduced to something that you're like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be down for this, but kind of diving in head first and being like, all right, if it doesn't work out, I can move on and find a different partner. If it does, I can be with them years later and we can flourish, and it's a great relationship.
I agree.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Khalil. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I definitely want you to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more content like this. But if this content had any value to you, click the like button as well.